Hi there, so today's session is a beginner's guide to buy to let. I thought it was quite relevant to do it at this time of the year because lots of people are thinking about their goals in 2020, and for some of you that might be starting or growing your property portfolio. So today I'm going to look at it right from a really early point if you've got no experience of it and you're really starting from scratch. So the first thing that you need to think about if you are thinking about delving into buy to let is why do you want to do this in the first place. A lot of people kind of watch these shows and they think, God, that looks like an easy way to make money and I should definitely get involved in some of that. It's actually more time consuming than you think, and you need to think about why it is that you're doing it. So different reasons people might be doing it. You might be doing it because you want to generate a monthly income to supplement your current income or to replace an income perhaps when you retire. And you might either be focusing on making a specific amount every month that you want to achieve so that you can live a certain lifestyle. So are you looking at it as an income generator, or are you looking at it more as a really long-term plan and you are looking at it partly as an income generator but also because you believe that the property will appreciate and value over time, and it may be something you want to pass down to your kids, or you eventually want your kids possibly to use to go to university or to college or whatever. So are you looking at it primarily as an income generator, or are you looking at it more long term as both income generator and for some other reason, or because you think it's going to generate capital appreciation over time? If it's an income generator, you probably want to focus more heavily on the yield, so on trying to make your investment generate as much rent as possible on a monthly basis, and that's what yield means. So yield means that the monthly rental income you get over the course of the year compared to what you've invested in that property, compared to the purchase price of it. So in Glasgow, for example, we generate really good yields because property prices are relatively low and rents are relatively good. So that means that you can quite easily buy a really stable, secure property and generate a yield of about 7 or 8%, and that's pretty good in terms of cities across the UK. We can always focus on getting a higher yield. Generally, the purchase price of the property or the value of the property and the yield. So as property values increase, the yield tends to decrease. So you want to try and, it's a fine line, you want to balance it. So the sweet spot for me normally is sub 100k, and you normally are able to generate yields of around 7 or 8% at around the £80,000-90,000 mark. You can generate higher yields as we drop down. Area perhaps tends to go down with that, so what type of tenant are you going to be getting? And maybe you might want a wee mix of that. But at the beginning, you need to decide why it is that you're trying to invest in this buy to let and what it is that you're trying to achieve. So once you've decided on that, then you need to think about how you're going to finance it. In terms of finance, you can either do a cash purchase, obviously, if you're going to release perhaps pension pot, or if you've got savings or inheritance or something like that. Alternative being financing this through buy to let mortgages. Now, buy to let mortgages there's quite a lot of them, lots of products out there just now. Realistically, to get a decent rate, you're probably looking at about a 20% deposit in order to get yourself a reasonable deal. And 20% deposit, you probably are putting that over about 25 years. And you can do both interest only and capital and interest only now. So obviously interest only means you're not repaying the loan. Capital and interest means you're repaying the loan and the interest. So eventually you are going to own that property, you're going to pay it off. Interest only, you're only paying back the interest on the mortgage. So you need to have another plan as to how you're going to pay that property off when that loan comes to the end of its life. So financing it, if you're going down the route of a mortgage, get yourself a decent broker. You can go to your bank. Sometimes it's less admin because they already have all your details, but a broker is going to look at the whole of the market and they're going to be able to source you the best deals. So once you have thought about how you're going to finance it, and you have got you've saved up your deposit, or you've got your deposit ready, you definitely should be getting a mortgage agreed in principle through a broker, and only then are you ready to really properly look and actually be making offers and stuff on properties. But other things to think about, I don't think you can really get into this without maybe about 25,000 in terms of savings or as your deposit. You can do it for less if you're going to be buying at a sub 50k mark, which is possible, but you are looking at probably slightly riskier properties. So the reason I say you need about 25,000 is you've got various different costs that you might not have thought of. So when you find a property and you offer on it, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to get a conveyancer, a solicitor, to do the conveyancing on that property. It needs to be a Scottish based solicitor, because the Scottish market is completely different to the rest of the UK. And a conveyancer is going to charge about £1,000 for a purchase. So you need to have £1,000 to pay that solicitor. And whether you're going to use a credit card or whether you're going to use your savings, you need to be able to pay that conveyancer, obviously. So that's about £1,000. On top of that, in Scotland, we have ADT. So if you own a property anywhere else in the world, virtually, there are a few exceptions, but if you own a property anywhere else in the world, you're going to have to pay 4% of the purchase price as the additional dwellings tax. And that sum is due 30 days from the purchase of the property. So 4% of your purchase price is going to be going off to the tax office 30 days after you've completed. So you need to have those funds available as well. So you need to include that in your figures. So you get conveyancer, you've got your additional dwellings tax. You've also got, if you're buying anything over the £145,000 mark, you get your stamp duty as well. In reality, for a lot of buy-to-let landlords, they're not buying over the 145k mark in Glasgow, so normally it would be under 145k. So it may be that you don't need to include savings or include stamp duty in your sums. You also will have mortgage arrangement fees if you're going down the route of a mortgage. That's quite often lumped onto your loan, so you might not need to worry about actually having the readies available to pay for that. So you're going to have your deposit, you're going to have your conveyancer, you're going to have your additional dwellings tax, and then on top of all of that, you're going to need to have some money pulled back in order to get that property rental ready. And that really is why I say that you need to have about £25,000 in your savings to get you started here. I think that gives you a bit of a buffer. It means you're not going to be too tight, and you're going to be able to have enough funds to be able to buy something reasonable that will give you a good yield, and that will also allow you to get that property to the market. Bear in mind, if you've got any major works that need to be done to any property that you need to buy, you're also going to have the funds for those, because when you mortgage, you're only going to get a mortgage up to the home report value of that property. So anything that you're paying over the home report or to refurbish that property, you need to find the cash for that as well. You're not going to get that in your mortgage, basically. So we've accounted for all the hidden costs. You've got your mortgage agreed in principle, or you've got your cash ready. You know why you want to invest. So now you're at the really exciting bit where you start to look and you start to view properties and focus on perhaps specific areas that you might have done your homework on. So I guess my first thing would be definitely do your homework. You're probably going to spend all your time on Rightmove and on Zoopla and on the market and all other portals that are out there. And you need to look at what these properties are renting for and what they are selling for. So you probably will find that you're never off your phone or your computer looking at all of these portals. Things that you need to consider when you're looking at what sort of property you're going to be buying. And this is absolutely, by far and away, the most important thing to concentrate on. How easy is it going to be to find a tenant for this property? So that means focusing on, if you're looking on the portals, how quickly are these turning over? So if you're online looking at them for rent and you see something in a specific area and they all sit there for 6 weeks, That's no good. That's going to take far too long to find a tenant for that property. So you want to be focusing on areas where you see the turnover is really fast. It's available to rent, it's under offer, available to rent, under offer. And those areas tend to be areas which are really close to the city centre or to big places of work. So for example, around a hospital, or around a university, or around a college, or around a big employer. They're good areas to look at as well. So once you start looking and you're viewing properties and you've seen something, things that you need to think about are, one, what's the property like inside? Does it need money spent on it? Would it be easy to get it rental ready? So does it need redecoration? Does it need new flooring? How's the kitchen? How's the bathroom? Importantly, how's the heating? How are the windows? And you concentrate on the inside of the property and you've got control over that. So if you've got money to spend on that property, then you can decide how much you want to spend on it, and that's within your control. What's not within your control are the communal areas. So how are the stairs, the communal stairs if it's a flat? How are the communal gardens? What is the surrounding area like? If you're looking at a property and the communal areas are crap and there's loads of graffiti or the stairs manky, then you need to think about how easy that's going to be to fix. So how easy is it going to be to get everybody involved to tidy that up, or to to involve a factor? And if there's not a factor, is everybody willing to get involved in tidying up that stair? So look at the communal areas, inside the property, and the surrounding areas. And also importantly, take into consideration the factoring costs. So the factoring costs are something that the landlord always has to pay for. So if your factoring fees are 100 quid a month and your rent's only 500 quid a month, that means that you're only getting 400 quid a month. So that's a really big proportion of your rent that's going out in factoring fees. And I would suggest that makes it probably not a great buy. Your normal factoring fees for a normal tenement style property or a 1-2 bedroom are probably going to be 40, 50 quid a month, something like that, dependent on what works are required within the stair. So take your time having a look at that. Other things that you need to consider is how much time do you have to get this property? How am I doing in time here? Oh gosh, I really need to hurry up. So how are we doing on? So how much time you have to get that property ready to rent? So you've got regulatory safety things that you need to organise. You need to get it cleaned. It needs to be ready to go to the market. Do you need to furnish it? How are you going to find a tenant for it? So are you going to be hands-on? Are you going to be a hands-on type of landlord? Or are you going to want to employ an agent to do that for you? So a lot of agents will help you with all that regulatory stuff, cleaning, furnishing. They offer you a whole package. So you might want to employ somebody. That's obviously going to cost you money. So you need to think about how much time and energy and money you want to spend on that. I think that's probably all I can talk about today, because I could go on about this for absolutely hours, but that's maybe enough for today. So I'd love to see all your questions, and maybe we'll focus more on something else next week, maybe on areas and things like that. Thanks for watching.